Hello and welcome to Cannabis Around the World. My name is Nike, I'm your host and cannabis activist and entrepreneur, and in this series I take you on a journey around the globe with the Green Goddess. I talk to experts from the different countries about the status quo of cannabis in their country and take you behind the scenes of the international cannabis business. Today we're in Amsterdam and we are really honored to talk to a real legend, my personal superhero, the Queen of Hash, Mila Janssen. She's traveled the world with the little kids, showed them all the different cultures, all the beauty of nature. She smoked chillum with the monks. She grew cannabis besides a police station, and she's a real pioneer in the cannabis business. So much more. If you want to read all, check out her book, Mila, How I Became the Hash Queen. It's definitely worth your time. You will laugh, you will cry, you will love it, just as this weather. I will link it below. It's in English and in Spanish. Really, buy it, read it, you will love this. Mila, thank you so much for inviting us over here to the Pollinator headquarters. How are you doing in these crazy times?
We're doing okay. At least we didn't have to close down, as you've seen, and the rest of it. We have plenty of space, and
You're all
everybody
busy.
can keep their distance, and everybody's busy. And we've been busy the whole time, so that's been good for business anyway.
That's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's obvious that cannabis had a huge impact on your life. I mean, you're a pioneer. You changed the cannabis industry. But can you tell us more about what different aspects of your life it touched?
Well, I've been smoking since 1964. And in those days in Amsterdam, there was only hash. So I smoked hash and had my hash and tobacco joints, like was popular then. And I never really stopped smoking unless I was maybe pregnant, but that would be it. And now I forgot the rest of your question.
So it was always there with the consumption, but you also had the hemp hotel with
Yeah, that was like in '98 we started that. So that was like more than 50 years, no, 30 years later. Yeah.
And you had so many different uses of
Well,
hemp
what
and
really
cannabis.
helped change my life was that I had a boutique here and then a tea house, and then we got into problems, so we left and we hitchhiked to India.
Yeah.
And I lived there off and on for 14 years. And everywhere I traveled through, and in India, people were smoking hash. So I really had a good time. We had excellent Afghani, Nepali, Kashmiri, plenty of choice. And then in '88, I moved back to Amsterdam. Now in Amsterdam, there were suddenly 280 coffee shops, and they all sold weed. But I'd never come across people who smoked weed. And so I tried it a couple of times, but I didn't really like it, the effect it had on me. Because more than 20 years after smoking hash, you're not going to switch so easily.
Yeah.
Then I didn't like their hash. All they had here at that time was Moroccan, and compared to what I was used to, it didn't pass. At the same time, when I moved to Holland, my 4 kids also moved to Holland, so I had to do something so I could continue giving them 3 meals a day and send them to school. And in those days, it was quite okay to be growing weed. And I have some friends who did that, and long ago I'd learned how to make clones. So my first job in the weed industry was to make clones. Then later I also had my own grows, quite a bunch of them actually, all here in Amsterdam or just outside. And having this material gave me the opportunity to make my own hash. Because traveling through Afghanistan Pakistan, Nepal, northern India, Manali, Malana. Everybody made hash, and so I'd seen and helped and made it several different ways. So growing weed over here, I had the material to make my own hash. So I had a flat screen, and over that I would waffle either the leftovers, the tiny manicuring leaves, or sometimes the buds. And yes, the crystals would fall at the bottom, and after about an hour I had enough for one joint.
Oh.
And then a couple of years later, I was standing in front of a clothes dryer, where the clothes are tumbling around, and it suddenly struck me what those clothes are doing is what I'm trying to do on a little bit of material by hand. So the next day we got a old clothes dryer and we took out the heating element, and I think we just tied a piece of screen around it and threw some material in, turned it on, and after 10 minutes there was literally a little pile. So that was the beginning of the pollinator.
The birth.
And we're still making them now. And I think that was the connection to now becoming this hash queen, because it was the first mechanized system to separate all the crystals. They'd been making hash for thousands of years, but it was always very much a manual job. And this was the first little machine that you could separate crystals, so it took off from there.
I also find it always quite amazing how many people you meet through cannabis.
Yeah.
Just as we met, but just as so many people all around the world, where you just have a connection and you're all fighting for the same reason. It's such a beautiful thing. It's connecting people.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if I'm somewhere in South America or even in Afghanistan itself. When I was there, we were sharing the hubbly bubbly, we were smoking together. And the same in South America, you just light up a joint or a pipe or a chillum and you're brothers.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's amazing.
Yeah.
We've been through around 100 years of stigmatization and fight against cannabis. And on the other side, there's you, there's me, there's so many people who are fighting for the legalization and for education, everything. What do you think that we have to show people, that people need to understand about cannabis to fight the stigmatization?
It's just a plant, and it grows like a weed. Like in one country, in Kazakhstan, there's 1,200,000 hectares of it growing wild. Nobody is tending it, nobody's looking after it. And it doesn't need fertilizers. You can grow hemp and make so many things, from building your house to clothes to paper to food. And then, of course, you've got the cannabis itself with its many different cannabinoids and terpenes. And I think nowadays the CBD is really popular. I don't know, the amounts people are producing, I wonder there's enough people to take all that, but anyway. No, it's an amazing plant, and I could never have imagined before in my life that I would be so much involved.
Yeah.
But it was just because of wanting to smoke some good hash, basically, that I invented the pollinator. And I remember I would sometimes go around town and sell some of the product in the coffee shops, thought that was too strong. But then we went around with the first models, and we'd have a car and go to all different grow shops, and I'd tell them ahead of time, get 100, 200 grams of either trim leaf material or buds, and we'll have a coffee with you. So. And while we were drinking the coffee, I could see all these crystals starting to fall down, so that was a really good promotion. We took months of that and basically visited about every grow shop in Holland at that time.
Absolutely. So you worked hard just to get to this point. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
always hard work, actually.
And then by the time people knew what the pollinator was for and were starting to use it, we came out with bags, the isolator bags. Now nobody understood. I remember standing here in Holland at one of these expos, and because for me it was new, I decorated all the walls with isolator bags and everything. And I think somewhere in a corner I had a pollinator, and people would just walk by. I don't know what they were thinking, but they'd have no concept that that had anything to do with making hash.
Yeah, yeah. What I always find quite fascinating is that when you get more and more into cannabis, as more as you learn about it, as more it gets fascinating, actually, because you see all the different aspects from a plant that takes all the bad things out of the soil, that can grow always, all the time, and that also has these health abilities. It can help so many people, and it can relax so many people. And nowadays, where we are all stressed and working hard and everything, it's actually probably the best thing to relax and the best medicine you could do against burning out. So there's so many different aspects.
I must say, I probably smoked it for 50 years before really admitting to myself that it was my medicine. I always thought it was just recreational. But then I realized that I'd never really been sick. I'd never got a bad disease, and got not so much stress, even bringing up 4 kids, mostly on my own. And I realized it's my medicine. But that was only in the last 7 or 8 years.
It's absolutely, and I think you find so many studies about cannabinoids and their aspects on the body. So there's so much to learn out there, so much that we already discovered. And there are many, many countries that are opening now. We had Uruguay's first, then Canada, parts of the USA, most parts of the USA, and actually Mexico now. But what we also see in these markets, for example, in Canada or in the USA, is that it's not a fair market. So I was talking to Tom from Canada, who's cannabis sommelier over there, and he was telling me that they still have a big black market because only a few people can get a grower's license. Only a few people can really sell their cannabis.
A few companies, and usually the biggest companies are the ones that get it.
And the same in the USA, where only the richest can really buy the licenses. So it's a very unfair system when not those people who have always been behind the plant and who have fought for this plant and possibly even going to jail, even suffering from the consequences. It's not these people.
Thousands of them did.
And it's not these people, it's not the lovers, the canna lovers who can really build their companies, but it's the big companies who just think like, from the different sides, from alcohol, tobacco side, who think, okay, we just buy ourselves in. So we see these different problems, and I was wondering what your thoughts are about this legalization and what your hopes are for the countries that might legalize cannabis.
Well, I don't know. I was always thinking what I would like is just that it gets normalized, you know, like something normal. But then people are very afraid they're not going to be making any money if it's normalized. So I guess legalized is the best we can hope for. And thank goodness more and more countries are coming to their senses. I heard even in parts of India now they're considering even getting it registered as a, what is that called when you have an ancient custom in a country?
Tradition? Is it like some kind of tradition?
No, it's a worldwide thing, heritage.
Heritage, okay.
Yeah, a World Heritage item, that it's been in their culture so long that it should be recognized as such. And
absolutely.
But
it's been in all cultures. I mean, the first thoughts were written on a paper. We had them, our ancestors had their food, their clothes, and everything. I mean, we saved the world. We couldn't be over here, and we couldn't have seen the world as it is without ropes and sails from hemp materials. So it's been there. It's in our culture all the time. But we just had this stigmatization and this propaganda for the last 100 years. So It's pretty sad, and what I also see is that while half of the world is opening, we in Europe are making steps back.
Well, especially in this country, they just like to write rules and regulations. They love regulations. And it's really gone backwards where I used to be quite proud to be from Amsterdam. It was the ruler of the world when it came towards innovation and marijuana and hash, and I think it's totally lost that, totally. Yeah.
Also with the rumors that the mayor is thinking about banning tourists from Amsterdam. People were coming here, it was the leading city when it was about cannabis.
Banning them from going to coffee shops.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what trouble she's imagining she's letting herself in for. I would think that within a week there's at least 1,000 street dealers on the market with all the consequences of that. So whether she's really consciously choosing for that, then rather just letting people go to the coffee shop and be peaceful and not really bother anyone. I think in the 90s maybe it was very popular to sell space cakes, and most people visiting would have no idea and eat 2 or 3 before, because they tasted so good, and then would be found slopped out on the sidewalk. So that gave everything really a bad reputation.
But at the end, nobody ever died from cannabis. You just can't overdose from cannabis. On the other hand, we have all the alcohol deaths, all the tobacco deaths.
They always say the only guy ever got killed was the one who got a bale of it on his head.
That's right.
Unloading on the ship.
So I just heard that, I think it was in America, I'm not quite sure, that where a father, he had kids, he had his life, everything, he was a good man. And I think he got shot because he was running away because he had his plans. And he was afraid. So.
Well, there's been a lot of problems and a lot of sad stories in America.
More positive topic is
because also over there, if I look at the people who own the dispensaries who are getting the permits, there's a very small percentage of black people there. Well, I would imagine in general the percentage of black people who smoke is maybe higher than the percentage of white people who smoke. So it's not, but they're working at it, and we can only hope for the best.
As always. You've been an entrepreneur since you're 20, and there are few female entrepreneurs. For us, it's obviously harder. Even if you want to get investors or something, as a woman, you get 1/3 of what man gets. So totally crazy. And also when it comes to the cannabis business, we still
I never got 1 penny support from any government or anyone. So I know all about that.
And we still see also in the cannabis business that there are few women. What would you tell women to dare more to be an entrepreneur and also maybe to go into the cannabis business?
I think in general, women might be better growers. They have more sympathy for plants maybe. But I don't know in which country you are living when you're listening to this, but depending to which country, just go for it. And
know what's legal. There are always ways. There are always ways to find your way.
There's always kind of things that haven't quite been sorted yet that you can get away with for a while anyway.
Just do it.
Just do it and start small scale. And I don't know if I would even have wanted investors. I just like to keep it small and run my own thing and not have to discuss every step of the way.
Absolutely. Mila, you're setting up an exhibition right now. We can see some parts of it over here. Can you tell us more about what the exhibition will be about?
So this is actually going to be more of a museum than expo, because I don't plan to move it. And it tells something about my life. And behind us we see there the original board of the Hemp Hotel. And then under that you can maybe see the number 22, which refers to King 22. That was the name of my boutique. The Kings were #1 in the hit parade, but that seemed a bit empty. And our house number was 22. So the boutique where we sold the first miniskirts in those days was 65, 66. It was a very wild time. Yeah, we had many outings, and later we suddenly realized after a couple of years, and Timothy Leary got very popular with his drop in and drop out. So we realized making all these dresses, because we had tailors sitting in the back of the shop actually stitching the dresses, making them as we go along. So yeah, and then every Saturday we'd be sold out and have to start all over again. So it seemed a hell of a lot of work. And at that time I had a friend who worked for the underground newspaper then, and she used to get these American records of Crosby, Stills and Nash, Janis Joplin, all these people, to make reviews for the magazine. And then we suddenly realized we want to be in space to listen to this, and none of the places you can go out in Amsterdam has any of this music, so we'll start our own. And we made a tea house. We had 5 kinds of tea.
I would have loved to be in the tea house, honestly.
And for a while, when we were still having the boutique, we were making carpets, coats out of carpets and miniskirts out of carpets. So at the end, we had all these carpets left, so we put them all over the floor and made poofs out of it. And it looked actually quite like an Eastern place. Anyway, that was very nice. The police didn't like us having the tea house there. Also, we would get Americans coming who had burned their passport and would come over against the Vietnam War.
It was a wild time.
Yes, and they would bring LSD, and we'd all go down to everybody who was in the tea house, we'd go down to the beach and enjoy it there.
Amazing.
There was quite a time. Anyway, police didn't like it. It was time to move. And at that time, I had a friend, and he'd just come back from India, and his stories were magnificent. So, okay, we tried to sell the boutique, which we did, though we never got the money, but that's a whole different story. And bought a van, and off we went, and we got rid of the van by the time we got to Istanbul, because it was the wrong people who had the driving license, and I didn't, and neither did my friend, so we were hitchhiking. Turkey, Iran, Afghanistan, and Afghanistan was very memorable. The people there were so lovely, and I really believe you'd sit along the road sharing a hubbly-bubbly. I found that later in life also. Those people will always be your friends, and you'll feel good with them. Then I ended up living in India for a long, long time. My second daughter got born there. They all went to school there.
Your daughter moved there, lived her most of her life?
Yeah, my oldest daughter has lived there way more than half of her life, I believe. Yeah.
And we see many, many pictures from you and from India and also from your kids.
Yeah, that was the boutique. Next to it is the period in India. And the top half is the mountains where we did lots of trekking with the kids and everything. And the bottom is more where we'd spend the winters in Goa.
Yeah.
Now we get to the parts that are not ready yet. This is going to be about the Hemp Hotel with an insert of all the kids, because after all, they played a pretty important part in my life. There's the Hemp Hotel bar.
It's so amazing that you still have that one.
Yeah, well, that was one of the things cluttering up my house.
I believe so.
I was very happy to find a place for it. And over here on the floor, actually, I'm already putting out the photos. That's going to be the part of the wall that is going to be about Pollinator Company. So that's getting ready. And then we got the Wall of Fame and the world map, but And then next to that will be a whole section on the wall with the bubbleator. Not the bubbleator, the dabadoo.
I also love that you have all these different pieces of hash from all the different kinds of the world, where they did it with the pollinator or the babbleator.
Or the isolator,
yeah. It's a piece of history, actually, that...
it's our wall of fame.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
You've seen many, many cultures. You have seen so much of nature and, well, met many people on this way and changed so many lives on your way. If there's one thing from your life that you could share with people, one piece of knowledge, what would it be?
Just follow your dreams. And not only follow your dreams, actually go out and do them. And sometimes it will not be the right thing eventually. And I've learned a lot from all my mistakes. Like when I started growing weed, we had no books to look at. So we learned from our mistakes, and I must say I made every mistake that's in the marijuana grow books to learn how to do it. And I think it's a bit like that with life. You know, you do things and maybe they don't really mean anything. Like I learned to make clothes when I was a teenager. At that time, it gave me some extra pocket money, and it wasn't off marijuana in those days. It was of all different garden plants. But later on, it turned out to be very good that I had learned that. The same way I studied painting, I studied languages, I had a knitting company while I was in India. And then all the local women who could knit, which was all of them, they had to give me, with all the different stitches they knew, a little thing of 20 by 20 stitches, I think. Yeah, and that was really good. They loved it, and for them it was great. It was a women's company, men weren't welcome, and that was so different to what they were used to, because also if before they would have a job, it was the husband who would get the money.
Yeah.
But I gave it to them, themselves. And yeah, I remember they would come up sometimes with their granny who they'd bought a shawl for. Or there was some enterprising young girls that did typing courses. And the other would come by with their 7 kids and say, I got new shoes for every single one of them this time. Not all hand-me-downs. No, I think it meant, I'm sorry that in the end we couldn't stay there.
So actually, what we can learn is just do it.
Yeah.
And if it's your dream, I mean, it's your one life. It's just one chance to just get into it and just dare to do it. And we can build a greener future, and we can protect nature. And cannabis could be a big solution of this and can be a big part of this. So we need more and more people to understand that what they might be thinking right now is out of propaganda and stigmatization, and that we have this plant with the many, many, many aspects, with medical aspects, with recreational aspects, but also with clothes and everything. And it's fascinating. So just learn about cannabis, legalize it, but please on a fair way, because there are many people who suffered for cannabis, and there are many people who love this plant and would love to do and build something greener and something better, a better future. Give these new companies that are building, that are growing out of the right people, give them a chance, and just legalize it.
Yeah, that would be great.
Thank you, Mila.
I fully
thank
agree.
you.
And thank you for inviting me for this interview, and it was very nice to meet you. Thank you very much.
It was amazing meeting you. Thank you so much. Yeah, people, if you like this video, then follow Cannabis Around the World over here on YouTube. Follow Mila on Instagram.
Oh yeah, I want to do it.
Follow me. And consume responsibly as always. Thank you.